Hey folks, welcome to the pre-show, which is a nothing part of the show. It's just a pre-show before we go live. We got about 3 minutes or so before that happens. I got to turn my sound way down so I don't get feedback. And welcome. How y'all doing? Matthew Sainsbury, good to see you. It is an interesting topic. Hey, Barbie D. Who else we got going here? June Shasta, good to see you. Sarah Yusuf, good to see you. Glad to have you all here. It's cold in here today. It's not super hot outside, but as I've mentioned, it's always cold down here. And we've got a big expanse down here in the studio. We've made the studio. It was a family room in this house, I think. We've got a living room upstairs where we have all the sofas and stuff. But down here, it's about 22 feet or so that way and a good 15 to 16 feet wide. So it's quite a big room down here. And we've got divided in half. Rainy's over there with her studio. Mine's over here. Bookshelves and a big sofa in the middle facing this way. If we ever have a peanut gallery wants to come in and watch and it's not filled with laundry. Hey, field guy. Good to see you. The ghosts are everywhere. So I'm just going to make sure I got everything up that I need up. Yes, I do. Doon. We got that. And we got that one we can put away. Boom. And boom, boom, boom. There we go. All right. Yeah, we're pretty much ready to roll. As soon as the time comes, we got about, 30 seconds, and we go live over on the radio station. Odyssey Radio. So, some last minor adjustments of things. I swear my work is haunted, says Field Guy. I heard someone say hi, and I was the only one there. Yeah, it's possible. Everywhere is haunted, I think. All right, guys, we're going to go dark. Be back in a few seconds. Here we go.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey, folks, welcome to I was going to say pre-show again, but I already said that in the pre-show. Welcome to the program. This is Scotty Roberts, your host, right here on the Intrepid radio program. Broadcasting live on radio over at OdysseyRadio.com. You can go over to ODYSYRadio.com. see all the goodness that's Odyssey Radio, and hear this show in its audio format. And of course, nowadays, radio isn't just radio anymore. Radio is also podcasting. Radio is visual. And I think never before in the history of radio and broadcasting has anyone had to look so good for radio as they do when they have a visual that accompanies the program. So you got to make sure your hair's right and the light's right and the camera angle's right and all of that. So welcome to the simulcast in video. If you're watching that, you can see that in two different places. Facebook.com/Odyssey Radio, and also over on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And you can come on over there. You can join the Intrepid family right over there in the chat room. It's over there on my screen on the right. And it might be on the left on yours. I don't know which. But come on over, join us. There's some good conversation that always goes on there during the show and after the show. Remember, after the show ends over on Odyssey Radio, you can stick around over on my YouTube channel, and you can join the conversation in the captain's cabin. So aptly named by the members of Intrepid Radio. And by the way, while you're at the the YouTube page, you can click on the thumbs up. But of course, you have to be subscribed, so you can go ahead and subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. If you want to help support the show, click on the join button at the bottom of the screen, and you'll see a few ways that you can help contribute to this program and its maintenance and keeping it going as best we can. And so thank you very much. And by the way, I'll just share with you, I'm not out to buy a new car or my alligator shoes with the funds that come in. It just helps. It's little bits and pieces that come in and help us keep this thing going. And I appreciate it. Of course, if you want to donate $100,000, I don't think I would stop you. So thank you for that. And everybody who's here over in the chat room, thank you for coming in. Thank you for already taking care of business over there and starting to talk over there. And I always say and listen for how many times you hear that on talk radio. And we're gonna keep talking tonight about some ghostly stuff. And I think tomorrow night, if you like this idea, you can express it over in the chat room or let me know. Tomorrow night, even though we're doing a radio show, I am going to do a slideshow. This is the slideshow of Margaret's and my trip to back in 1974. No, I'm going to do a little bit of a slideshow. We're going to go through a bunch of pictures from Egypt, and I'll be describing some of the things that we saw. Says Field Guy over in the chat room. And so if you like that idea, be here tomorrow night. It'll still be good for you listening in audio over on the radio. I'll describe things and talk a lot, as I normally do. And if you want to see pictures, you can tune into the YouTube channel and see them there as well. So tonight, we're going to talk about ancient Egypt again. But ancient Egypt I gave you a little teaser at the end of the show last night as to what we'd be talking about tonight in regard to ancient Egypt and the ghosts of ancient Egypt and the death rites of ancient Egypt and the belief system of ancient Egypt. As you know, in ancient Egypt, they revered the afterlife. Maybe revered isn't the best word to use there, but they saw the afterlife as something that everybody was going to face, and their whole spiritual system was built around it. And, when you think about it, that's really not much different than Judaism, than Islam, than Christianity. Everything seems to be built around the afterlife. And it makes you want to ask the question, if you separate yourself from faith and religion and you look at it anthropologically, why was mankind and why is mankind still so very concerned with what happens after death? And we're told certain things about after death from certain religious points of view and faith points of view. And so the big question has to be, which faith point of view are you part of? And why would you be concerned about what happens to your soul in the afterlife? Is this something we need to be concerned about? I know the biblical script tells us we need to be very concerned about the afterlife. I've always wondered, from my point of view, as I think about these things, why did God put us here in human form only to be so very concerned about what happens when that humanity ends and comes to its end? As we read many times in Marcus Aurelius's meditations over the last few weeks, he talked a few times about death. This is it. This is your life. This is what you have, but it's coming to an end. Doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you're a child or a teen or is in your 20-something or you're an elderly person. All of us have the end coming. And are we concerned about that? Only because we are fully aware that there is an end to this life. And so we have to, uh, in our religious faith and our faith experiences, our spiritualities, we're so very concerned. We have to, in a sense, kind of prep ourselves for the afterlife. So we could spend up to, let's say you live to be 100 years old, you could spend a century of your life. Well, probably less than that, because you don't get an understanding of that stuff so much until you start coming to the age of understanding as a child. But we spend our whole life wondering, where am I going to be after I die? What's going to happen? What's going to go on? What needs to be my concern? Do I need to be concerned about the safety of my soul? I know the ancient Egyptians were. They said after life, your soul was weighed in the balances. We're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. Sarah Yusuf in the chat room says it's interesting to look at different cultures and the elements that have survived and evolved over thousands of years. And yeah, the concern being that this life is temporary, and we all know it. All you have to do is look at nature, and you know that life is temporary. Nature itself goes on, but individual elements of nature come to an end. You can be walking along a forest path and find a dead bird. And you know that life, elements of nature, come to an end. How old was that bird, we ask? Wow, what was his lifespan? Why did he die? Did he die of the elements? Did he die because he was sick? Did he die because he was old and used up? We don't know. Many times, unless, you're into that kind of research and you can tell, or you're a vet or something. But there is the big thing that seems to be pervasive with all of us. What happens after I die? Where do I go? And I think this is what sparks the interest in wanting to know things about the paranormal realms, if you will. Those things that are outside the normal of what we experience in day-to-day life. Are there ghosts? Are there spirits? And what are they? Are they interdimensional beings? Are they aliens? Are they stuffs of the imagination that our psychological makeup can run away with us sometimes? I happen to believe that is not the case, that one, because I've experienced too much firsthand. People might say that's anecdotal. I don't care. Doesn't matter. I've experienced it. And I'm a fairly pragmatic, I will say, without trying to pat myself on the back, I'm a fairly smart guy. And so when I say that I have belief in some of these things, that belief is usually based in the fact that I've experienced something, which is how I like to believe things. So there's the big question. Grumpy Stack over in the chat room says he's an alien, but not an illegal one. Michelle Cannon Free, listening to in the car in Green Bay. Thank you, Michelle Cannon Free. Welcome to the chat room. Good old friend of this program and mine. And so as we think about these things and think about the paranormal and think about why we're so interested in it, why we are drawn to the things that scare us. There are some people who say, I saw a ghost once and I never want to see one again, and they don't dabble in it at all. I talk about, even last night when I was talking about this show, during the show, we got to do an experiment sometime. and experiment with some equipment. And Rainey, my wife, said, "Not in this house, you aren't." She is so familiar with these things. She's a magnet to it. She has seen so much in her lifetime. Yet she doesn't want me to dabble in that stuff at the house because she doesn't want to invite anything in that's frankly not already here. And I would think that if I'm looking for a voice somewhere, it's probably something that's already around here and things that we've seen. Fear is based on facing the unknown, says Sarah Yusuf over in the chat room. That's right. Grumpy Stack has seen ghosts and 2 shadow people. Peeps, he says. There is Peeps. And Brianna is here. Holy crap. You got the sound on and the banner. Good job. Thank you, Bri. Thank you. You didn't even have to call me tonight to remind me to do anything. So good to see you over in the chat room, too. And yeah, I got everything done tonight all by myself. So I don't know if that means I'm extra awake today or I'm extra alert or whatever it is. Now, you have enough mistakes you make and you start learning from those mistakes, or you got a problem going on your hands. You're nuts. So thank you for mentioning that. So we all, not all of us, most of us have had some kind of experience or another, and we're drawn to that afterlife. And this is all kind of a prelude in talking about the Egyptians and the way they did things, their afterlife beliefs. And I think I don't know that it's important that we know all this stuff, other than that it's history, and it's the history of what we know or what we think we know, the history of our race, human race, by the way. That's why I don't see myself ever as racist, because all the races that they want to divide out, we're all the same race. We're all humans. Boom. So in ancient Egyptian afterlife, their beliefs were centered around a whole variety of incredibly complex rituals that were influenced by many aspects of the Egyptian culture itself. Religion was a major contributor, since it was important social practices that bound all Egyptians together. When you think about it, you think about some of the monuments that were built to the memories of the pharaohs, and you had whole communities at the pyramids of Giza. They've uncovered just a stone's throw. You be standing at the pyramid right at the base, touching the rocks, and walk about 100 yards over there, and you're in the old village that's thousands of years old. It's been uncovered. That they say about 20,000 people lived there for generations. Why were they there? They were there to build these monuments for the pharaoh. No matter what you think they were, whether they were tombs, they were pretty certain that the pyramids weren't tombs, but there's other functions for them, but all in memory of the pharaoh who sat on the throne. And they were all those monuments and temples and graves and tombs were all built, hewn out of the rock, 100 feet into the ground, through rock, carved out. Why did they do these things? Why did they put that amount of labor into it? So, because they had a great respect, fear, and a religion that they devised about the afterlife. Now, who told them these things? Who told them that existed? When you look at biblical text, and you look at Judeo-Christianity, we had prophets and we had people appointed by God that shared the message. This is what is, and this is what you'll be facing. You had God's own son even came down to share the message. And you look at that and you say, the Egyptians were no different thousands of years earlier. Somebody told them this is the way it is. Was it a god, or was it them claiming it was a god? What makes Judeo-Christianity different than Egyptian religion or Islamic religion, and so on? These are the things that you juggle when you're thinking about things from a anthropological point of view or a historical point of view. Many Egyptian gods played roles in guiding the souls of the dead through their afterlife. With the evolution of writing and the written language, Religious ideals were recorded and quickly spread throughout the Egyptian community. The solidification and the commencement of these doctrines were formed in the creation of afterlife texts, which illustrate and explain what the dead would need to know in order to complete the journey safely. You walk into some of the tombs in the Valley of the Kings, and the walls, I think it's I want to say it's Ramses VI, his big tomb, which has the big wide, probably about 12-foot wide stairway that goes down and down and down and down and down and down into the carved out tomb. And every one of those walls going all the way down there, the length of a football field, descending down these long steps. Those walls are covered with paintings and hieroglyphs, the story of the pharaoh and his life and his interaction with the gods and his afterlife and things like that. So there's a belief in an underworld that was there, a belief in eternal life, a belief in a rebirth of the soul. This was all part of ancient Egyptian theology. The underworld, also known as the Duat, D-U-A-T, the Tuat, had only one entrance that could be reached by traveling through the tomb of the deceased. And by the way, you remember the story I told of when John Ward and Rocky Stucci and we were heading to a paranormal investigation, and Rocky said, you guys should probably pray. We should all pray for a little, let's have some silence in the car while we're driving. Pray and reach out for protection. And that's when I prayed, and I got that Egyptian figure. Well, John said, as we were all done, Rocky said, everybody feel prayed up and protected for tonight? And John said, yes, I have addressed the demons of the Duat. And Rocky about jumped out of his skin at that. You're praying to demons? And John said, not to worry. The demons of the Duat are different than you might think. It's not the same connotation as demonology in Judaism or Christianity. So it wasn't the evil that he was connecting with. So the initial image a soul would be presented with upon death and upon entering the realm of the Tuat was a corridor lined with an array of fascinating statues, including a variation of the hawk-headed god Horus. And the path taken to the underworld may have varied between kings and common people. And after entry, spirits were presented to another prominent god, Osiris, who you've heard the name. Osiris would determine the virtue of the deceased's soul, and he'd grant those deemed deserving a peaceful afterlife. And so everything was contingent upon the kind of life you lived as to how you would be judged or deemed in the afterlife by Osiris. And it's interesting that in Christianity, that's all turned around. It's where basically the tenets of Christianity tell you there is nothing good you can do to earn eternal life, to earn a place in heaven. Much to the difference of a lot of the stuff that we hear people say, well, I hope I've lived a good enough life and I'm going up. It's their version of going to heaven. And whereas the biblical text says it's not anything good that you can do that gets you there. There's a Bible verse that says, by grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it's a gift of God, not of your earthly works, lest anyone should be able to brag about what they've done. He said the only way to God was through the mediator, the Son of God. And so this is Christian theology. And so I used to say when I was in ministry, I would answer that question and say, if we could, as Christians, if we could perform good enough deeds to earn us eternal life in heaven, why did Jesus ever have to die? If I could do that myself. That was the reasoning that we used. And so that same kind of reasoning is a little flip-flopped in Egyptian theology. It's something I think that we've lived with all throughout the history of humanity. Anybody who had a theology about the afterlife always said it's how you live your life will determine where you get. And God says in the New Testament, or the writers in the New Testament say, Doesn't have anything to do with being good. It has to do with God has given you the grace and has saved your soul because you made an act of repentance and asking. So maybe that's the only thing you really have to do. It's that repent. What's the unforgivable sin? Rejecting God, according to Christianity. So we have all of those, and Christianity seemed to bring in a new order to things, a new, different way to do things that had always been done before that. The Egyptian concept of eternal life was often seen as being reborn indefinitely. Therefore, the souls who'd lived their life elegantly were guided to Osiris to be born again. And so living your life elegantly is something. Oh, hey, Uncle Dave. He said, hey, Scotty, over in the chat room. They had to overcome several trials and gates and several judgments, said Sarah Yusuf. Exactly. So in order to achieve the ideal afterlife, many practices in ancient Egypt had to be performed during one's own life. And this may have included acting justly, following the beliefs of the Egyptian creed. Additionally, the Egyptians stressed the rituals completed after an individual's life has ended. In other words, it has the responsibility of the living to carry out the final traditions required so the dead could promptly meet their final fate. It depended on your relatives. Again, a modification of that seen with your ancestors. You have to remember them in order for their life to go on. As I mentioned, that cartoon, that animated film, Coco. If you haven't seen that, get that and see it. It's about a Mexican tradition of the ancestors and how they lived on in the afterlife because of their memories left behind and those who remembered them. So it was the responsibility of the living to do this for those who passed on. And sometimes this is where you had the ghost stories came up in Egypt, because somebody wasn't doing what they needed to do for this person who was now trapped in a limbo, sort of. So ultimately, maintaining high religious morals by both the living and the dead, as well as complying to a variety of traditions, guaranteed the deceased a smoother transition into the underworld. And they had these funeral practices. There were many challenges that the dead had to face, as Sarah Yusuf just alluded to, before they were able to enter into the final stages of the afterlife. However, through the support of the living, the dead had access to protection and knowledge that they would need to be reborn in the netherworld. Now, Christianity would tell you need to be reborn in this life, a regenerated soul that has nothing to do with you except accepting it and living it by faith, and the living of which could never take it away. If you didn't live in Christianity, it's very clear in the New Testament, you could become that born again, that saved person. Born again, don't let that throw you, because we've put some negative connotation, the Bible thumpers, born againers, and so on. That is a biblical term, that you have to be born again, that you have to accept Christ as your Savior. All of this doctrine that was laid out in Christian theology. And yet, the Bible's also very clear. Even if you reject God after having done this, he's already given you the free gift. He's not going to take it away. But they said the true person who is truly regenerated in Christianity isn't something that's going to choose that other life. Doesn't mean they don't make mistakes and don't sin and don't do stuff like that. It means that they live a certain kind of life afterwards. It's an earmark of who they are. Not Cinco de Mayo. No, not Cinco de Mayo. So, the reference to Mexican. So look at their tombs. The design and scale of Egyptian burial tombs varied from period to period, even though their function remained the same. Many times you saw things in the older days made out of wood and painted on the wall. Then they moved into inscribing everything on the walls in the later days. So Middle Kingdom and things like that. So, and I'm not being exacting because I'm not giving a lesson on archaeology or history, but just on the theology. And so the burial tombs differed from period to period. Their function remained the same. While most tombs were built during the lifetime of the person it was meant for, Egyptian tombs were constructed to house the body of the dead, but also functioned to transmit the soul to the underworld. So most of what was found in a tomb depended on the status of the person buried within it. However, in order to assist the dead, most tombs were decorated with texts meant to help guide the deceased soul to the afterlife, something that was attainable to everyone. And I'm reminded, I had a flash of this in my head when Jesus was decrying the religious leaders of his day with that whole passage where he starts several lines with, "Woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites." And he would state things that they do. You pray in public so people see you, not because you believe God is actually there hearing your prayers. Your sincerity is dead. At one point, he called them, and I was thinking of this when I was talking about tombs. He said, "Woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites." He says, "You are like the whitewashed tombs. On the outside, they look really pretty, but on the inside, they're full of dead men's bones." He says, "This is what you are." So even in Jesus' day, remember when Joseph of Arimathea went to Pilate and requested Jesus' body after the crucifixion, and he put him in his own tomb, his family tomb, that had been hewn out and prepared for his family, an unused tomb. So people always prep these things ahead of time. You can go now. You can go buy your own cemetery plot right now. And you can even buy your headstone, even though they can't fill in all the data yet. So you see in Egypt, they had the afterlife texts. And throughout the centuries, the Egyptian people decorated their tombs and their coffins with religious spells and texts, hoping to help the dead in the afterlife. And as Egyptian culture developed, all these texts also evolved. They became more complex, more extensive in nature. You've got the pyramid texts, they're called. They were the first religious spells to be carved into the walls of royal ancient Egyptian pyramids. Beginning in the Old Kingdom period, these texts were used exclusively by the Egyptian pharaohs to decorate the walls of their tombs. However, Egyptian queens and high-ranking government officials, the nobles, you can go to the tombs of the nobles in Luxor and see some amazing tombs, some fantastic tombs. All of these people, government officials, queens, soon began to use the pyramid texts in their burial tombs as well. And the purpose of these texts were to help the pharaoh successfully complete his journey through the afterlife by conveying knowledge to the deceased about the paths that he should take and the dangers that he might face along the way. There is one in the tomb of Rechmir, who was a grand vizier during the life of Tutmosis III, and his son for a few years, Amenhotep II, who succeeded him. And in his tomb was where we see the paintings on the walls of Egyptians, workers, and Middle Eastern workers making mud bricks like you see in the biblical account before the Exodus, of doing the work and building the walls and building the temples. And you could tell by the skin color, because the ancient Egyptians used kind of a reddish brown for the Egyptians. They used a yellowish brown for Middle Easterners. And there were other races mixed in there too. There were some of the Negroid races, the black races you could see in there as well. So the coffin texts in the Middle Kingdom period, the pyramid texts were replaced by the coffin texts, which were spells that inscribed into the coffins of the dead. And they were meant to protect the deceased in the afterlife, provide them with the transformational magic that they would need along their journey. And these coffin texts were generally more attainable, providing the common people of Egypt the opportunity to attain a proper afterlife, because you could put them in a box and you could carve these or paint these texts on the inside of the coffin as well as the outside. And so it was attainable to everybody. And it's also important to really denote here that the collection of coffin texts known as the Book of Two Ways functioned as the earliest manual to the afterlife. You can look that up, the Book of Two Ways. And I want to take time to get into that tonight because we'll spend the rest of the time on that. Then you had the Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead was an extensive collection of spells that included material from both the pyramid texts and the coffin texts. And in the New Kingdom period, the Book of the Dead was normally recorded on papyrus paper. However, it could also be found on the tomb walls, coffin and wrappings of mummies. The coffin texts, the spells illustrated within the Book of the Dead, were used by everyone in ancient Egypt. Everyone meaning most everyone. These spells offered advice, protection, and knowledge to the dead as they journeyed through the netherworld. And don't we do that in some ways now? Don't we have, what are some of the traditions, all you in the chat room, what are some of the traditions we have that when we bury somebody or when we cremate them and put them in an urn, what are some of the traditions we go through? We have memorial services. I know when my grandfather died, and I was very much at the time, I was still very much in the church. And my grandfather died an agnostic, maybe even an atheist. He was a Jewish man that wasn't Jewish anymore. He was agnostic. The whole Jewish side of the family had him buried in Jewish tradition. They wrapped him in a shroud, put him in a simple wooden box to bury him, and it had to be done within 24 hours. And I remember standing at the graveside, and I was asked to say a couple of words. And I said, you know, my grandfather, he was always an adventurer in life and an explorer. I said, we are represented by different religions here. I said, in different levels of faith. And I said, all I can say about my grandfather is that he's gone on that final adventure, the one that all of us are going to have to take someday. And now he's adventuring in a different place. What that brings, when none of us know for sure, but we all have our traditions that we follow. There's the books of the netherworld in ancient Egypt. The books of the netherworld contained multiple texts that provided the deceased with a description of the underworld. Here's where you're going to go. Here's what's going on. Here's what you're going to face. And it served as a guide to help the dead during their final journey. And since the deceased were often seen replicating the rebirth cycle of Ra as they traveled through the afterlife, these texts primarily focused on the second half of the sun god's journey, which took him through the underworld at night. And the earlier books of the netherworld, which included the Amduat and the books of Gates, divided their narratives into 12 parts, symbolizing the 12 hours from when the sun god spent in the underworld after sundown, before sunrise. And later books, such as the Book of Caverns and the Book of the Earth, used a more sectionalized approach when representing their narratives. All the books also contained complex illustrations of the netherworld. It's like a map. You were given a map of what the netherworld looked like, which could often be seen etched into coffins in the walls of burial tombs. Tomorrow night, when we show some pictures, I'll show you some great photos of some of these inscriptions that I happen to see. You have the books of the sky. The books of the sky consisted of 3 afterlife texts titled the Book of Nut, N-U-T, the god Nut, or Nut, the Book of Day, and the Book of Night. Carved into the ceilings of these tombs, these texts emphasize the role of the goddess Nut played in the Egyptian afterlife. The coffins themselves in Egyptian culture date back to the Old Kingdom. And during this era, coffins were relatively simple. They were equilateral markings with minor details. And these included 3 openings, one that the Ka was intended to pass through, and 2 that represented eyes. However, as time passed, coffins and their structures evolved. By the New Kingdom time, coffins had not only become more popular around the area. Hey, did you get the newest, Mark V coffin? Coffins had not only become more popular, but they were distributed for sale. You had undertakers, so to speak. Your coffin dealers. I see you're looking at the new coffin that we've made out front. Now, the blank spots are the spots where your story is going to go, but the rest is the instructions to the afterlife. We also have this model over here. You can step up and add a little this and a little bit of that. And so it held this strange, decorated with features aura, and it resembled the individual that was inside it. The deceased were also often depicted in white clothes because it represented the soul's purity after it had passed through judgment in the Hall of Mot. And additionally, one orientation of the deceased was very important in Egyptian culture. And in early periods, the body would have laid promptly on their side with their head directed to the south. And this later shifted with the body flat on its back, the north becoming a more favorable position for the dead's head to lie. Now, Sarah Yusuf in the chat room, I saw that you made a lot of comments here. I wanted to see what you were talking about. You're talking about the Westcar Papyrus, immortality. There's a document called the Emerald Tablets. I've heard of those, the Emerald Tablets. Not something I'm going to talk about tonight, but that's something that's very interesting as well. It's interesting they view remembrance of the names as a form of immortality. If you all remember the book I'm working on right now to try to finish, it's the illustrated book, much like The Sword and the Clay, only there's more illustrations in it, about how to be an archaeologist. At one point in the book, I have this kid who grows up in the book, becomes an archaeologist, all the things he goes through to get there. I want to read this little segment from that book. I'll start at this place here. It says, now that you've nailed your BA, Bachelor of Arts degree, to the wall, it's time to get serious. Set your mind to the long haul of earning your master's, writing papers and theses, of travel and internships working as an assistant. Anthropology, it's said, is the study of people, how they hunted and farmed, built monuments unspeakable. You study ancient languages and decipher religions, examine statues and pottery and tribal divisions. From the Maya to the Aztec, the Anasazi and the Hun, the Indus Valley migration in ancient Greece 101. You absorb all the books, take your tests and read papers, siphoning all that you can from these academic capers. Soon the curricular mist of scholarship parts. You know what you want. You know where it starts. You hear the call of the ages through the dynastic haze. The riddle of the Sphinx reaches through the malaise. The voices have spoken. The gods have regaled you. Despite all the piffle academia gave you, to the gods, demigods, and spirits of the dead, to the land of the pharaohs you know you must head. Now a handful of years have now passed through your journal. Abu Simbel and Khufu only lent you a kernel of the grandeur that lies neath the sands neath your feet. The final step is begun for your beginning to complete. Identified and applied and now signed with the ministry, you've been granted permission to uncover history. A shovel in one hand and a trowel in the other, your third hand extended to a benefactor and sponsor, as at long last you stand in Ra's blazing simmer, sinking your spade into your own quest for treasure. You won't, now here's the part, you won't find it in books. They don't teach it in school. The universities won't break with their cardinal rule that says it's all science, just history, nothing more. They give you lectures and letters, then matriculate you to the door. but it's there in that moment, after years of hard work, of reading, writing papers, and digging in the dirt, that you find yourself breathing the air of the ancients. You've moved rocks, sifted silt, and now you finally face it. Eternal life, it is written, resides in the name. Remembrance and utterance is the name of that game. So you drop to your knees, assuaging your fears, and for the very first time in thousands of years, you gaze into those eyes that shed only stone tears. Your fingers brush lightly on glyphs carved so bold. And there on the lintel, where in antiquity was told the story of this man, now 3,000 years old, in the recounting of his life and his deeds of great fame, lay the resurrection to be found only in his name. His face to your face, your words to his ears, you speak out his name, not uttered in years. And the statue before you breaks free of its bonds, reconnecting with life in the light of the gods. This is that resurrection, that name. I've mentioned this before. When you look at the books of Moses in the Bible, I don't think there's any reason to think, I'll say it again, like I've said a million times, that Moses wasn't the author. We've always wondered, why didn't he name any of the pharaohs? Why didn't he give us some timeline to go by? Well, he did. He gave us some hints. But it is my belief that, remember, Moses grew up for 40 years in Egyptian theology, in Egyptian nobility. And he took that with him. And then for 40 years, he became a sheikh in the wilderness and stayed away from it all. He ran away. And then God calls him when he's 80-ish years old. And when he writes this account down, what does he do? Like many things in the biblical text, you can see Egyptian theology, Egyptian learning, Egyptian nobility, all these things seeping through between the cracks. And what does he do about the pharaohs that he mentions? He doesn't. He doesn't mention them by name. Why? Because in the name resided the eternal life. I think that there was a bit of Moses that said, I will not utter their names, I will not write their names, because to do so, I am elongating their eternal life. And he didn't want to grant that to them. So he didn't mention them. And there's only one he mentions with a hint, that he was found in the Nile, in the reeds in a basket, by Pharaoh's daughter. And the term Pharaoh's daughter, in its context in Moses' day, applied to it was a title. And it was applied only to 2 to 3 women all throughout ancient Egyptian history. Pharaoh's daughter, the title of. And one of those was Hatshepsut. Matkari was her pre-regnal name. And I believe this is how he remembered her, the woman that raised him, the woman that he later fell in love with. Remember, she took him, she adopted him. It didn't mean she had a motherly relationship with him. And but they grew up together. She appointed him 92 royal titles. And he remembers her by calling her Pharaoh's daughter, her title, her official title, which I think is very interesting and very, I think, loving on the part of Moses. So as we go on with this now, we're not getting into many ghost stories because there's so much more to the life. We got the mummification process and what that meant, funerary offerings, the journey to the afterlife itself. And this is so intriguing. There's so much to it. We only have 6 minutes of the show left. But let's get to this. Let's see what we can cover in this. The journey to the afterlife. Ancient Egyptians theorized that the passage to the afterlife was in a series of stages. The first phase was believed to encompass the vehicle of transportation, which would eventually direct their departed souls to immortality. Individuals were subjected to a multitude of passages, but the choice of route wasn't theirs. It was dependent on their status. The aspect that was the most universally influential in determining what passage was taken was one's position among the leaders. And so, despite the differences between voyages and voyagers, beliefs concerning the afterlife were highly reliant on religious ideologies. For example, early people often used religion to understand as well as relate to natural occurrences, since science, the etiology it's called. Science had not yet defined everyday incidents. So they used etiology, made up mythology, to demonstrate there was no justification for the sun's orbit. So religious myths redefined and answered the questions prehistoric people had. Yet since science incidences were explained by religious beliefs, other realms of creed mimicked the natural patterns of life. For instance, the general ideology associated with the path to the underworld was believed that as night overshadowed the land, the deceased would begin their journey. And with the rising of the sun, a new day was not only thought to have begun, but a new life for them as well. Boat passages to the underworld. I remember you had the boat in ancient Greece. You had the river Styx and the boatmen, the ferrymen, who had to be paid. So, same in ancient Egypt, boat passengers to the underworld were strictly reserved for pharaohs who had died. The Egyptian sun god Ra was believed to travel to the underworld by boat as the sun set. As a way of to mimic Ra's daily expedition, the ancient people of Egypt would construct model boats, ranging in many sizes. Little ones like this, big ones. And they would construct these model boats, and they would bury them alongside their pharaohs. For example, next to the Pyramid of Khufu, researchers, now I've been there and I've seen this, they've uncovered Khufu's ship, a boat the size of traditional ships, but it was a funerary ship, which displayed not only the extreme devotion Egyptians had for their leader, but their dedication to obtaining eternity for all. In other words, a great deal of the requirements for the deceased to properly reach the underworld rested on the living to do these things, to go through these rituals, to build these things. In order for the pharaoh to arrive at his final destination, his people had to construct a variety of boats to ensure his departure. And as a result, communities had to come together. They supported each other. Otherwise, their perspective of immortality, as well as their beliefs, would end indefinitely. Therefore, commitment to helping others, especially their leader, achieve eternity was a vital component to Egyptian culture, as demonstrated by the gallant boats that were buried with their rulers. And also there was an alternative vehicle for entrance to the underworld was the coffin. While kings often used coffins in addition to or substitution of the boat belief, everyday citizens had less choice. Therefore, this method was more universal, while alluding to a different, more frequent path of entry. And to compare, while passages by boat directed the deceased to the sun god Ra, coffins were thought to guide individuals to the sky goddess Nut, and each coffin was uniquely attributed to the person who rested in it. And in other words, every coffin was subject to a variety of interpretations, all of which were intended to promote the deceased in obtaining their eternal life and help them to get to their eternal path. Now, we've got just a little over a minute left. And we didn't get to the ghost part, which is just as exciting, talking about Egyptian ghosts. Many of the Egyptian stories and the ancient stories we'll see, and maybe we'll hit some of these tomorrow while we're showing slides. But the pictures, we'll call it photos. These Egyptian ghost stories were comprised of unfinished business or ghosts visiting the living to let them know you didn't take care of me properly at my death. There's unfinished business there. So it's very interesting stuff. And we'll get into this a bit more tomorrow night. And right now, we've only got about 20 seconds left of this show. So I want to thank you all for being here. Stick around for the Captain's Cabin right after we go off air. And everyone, I just want you to know, live long and prosper.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Well, welcome back to those of you who never left. Welcome to the Captain's Cabin. The Captain's Cabin R. Captain R's cabin. So there you go. Let's see. We got about 2 seconds and we disconnect. Oh, there. We're all disconnected from the server. And I'm going to bring up my sound a little bit. If anybody here in the chat room would like to call in and talk a little bit in the Captain's Cabin, I'm pasting the link in the chat room right now and saying, come on over and we'll talk a little bit more. I could continue on with the Egyptian ghost stories, but what I don't want to do is deprive the radio listening audience of that, which is the audio-only audience over at the radio station. That's a vast audience over there, and so we don't want to deprive them of hearing these ghost stories, so I'll save them for tomorrow night. And what do we got here? Sean Stroik says, was funded by the CIA. That's a totally different topic, I think. Egyptian Afterlife, says Sarah Yusuf. What did you say about it? Egyptian Afterlife. Gamer Afterlife. Yeah, maybe just a little bit. We got Uncle Dave calling in. He must be driving because I see he's only in audio format here. Uncle Dave. Can you hear me, Uncle Dave?
Hey, yep, I can. Sorry. Had something in my mouth right when you picked it up.
Get that thing out of your mouth.
So I'm smoking a cigar, driving along, changing lanes. Somehow I flipped my hand across the cigar, dropped the cigar down into my beard. Flames are
time to
coming
shave
up.
The beard.
I'm trying to put the beard out, get the cigar, brush myself off, not brush it into my lap in the car seat, get all the burning coals out. I think I burned a hole in my beard. I'm not sure. I won't know until I get to my destination and can look at it in the light. So I may be trimming off half my beard now.
Yeah.
Because it's about halfway down.
I did that once many years ago. I was smoking in the car, out the car window, because I didn't like the car to smell like cigarettes. And my lips were dry. You ever done that?
Yep.
And when you have a cigar or anything and you pull it and either half of the cigar leaf sticks to your lips, or if you're smoking a cigarette, the cigarette will stick to your lips. And so I went to pull the cigarette out to flick it, the ash out the window, and I grabbed it and it stuck to my lip and kind of, my fingers ran down the end of the cigarette, pulled the hot burning bud off.
I did that.
And you go, ah, and you drop it and you go, ah, because I'm going 75 miles down the highway and I've got now a burning coal in my lap, and you try to reach out to brush it away. And what happens when you raise yourself up in your driver's seat?
It drops down underneath.
It drops down further. So,
yep,
I burned a nice little hole in my pants, and thank God not in my scrotum. And so it was a good lesson. I always licked my lips after that when I'd smoke. That had to be 15,
I'm not one of these guys that puts 2 or 3 inches of cigar in his mouth. I like just a small amount in my mouth at any one time. Yeah. And so I didn't have any purchase on it when I flipped it with my hand. Just right out. And as I'm trying to grab a hold of it, grab the ember end of it instead, burned my hand, dropped it again. Yeah.
There it is. Field guy says the burning bush was thus born.
Yes. A flame bush, and not in a good way.
At least I didn't get pulled over, Sarah Yusuf, or I didn't crash into anything. And it all happened in like 2 to 3 seconds, and it was over.
Yep.
But
It
man,
was all over very quickly.
yep. 2 or 3 inches is small, says Field Guy. Hi, Rowan. How you doing?
Hello, Rowan.
There's Uncle Dave.
Hi.
Hi,
How was your
sweetie.
day? How was your? You have fun at Grandma's?
Yes, I got to go full speed on the golf cart all the way around the block, and it took like 20 minutes just for me to get back.
Well, they have a big block. They live in the country, so it's dirt
Yeah,
roads and curvy
but, you
dirt
know,
roads.
I had to go slow over the bumps because Uncle
Oh.
Rob. But I went really fast the rest of the time, and Uncle Rob said he was too scared to go with me again.
I'll bet he was. So
I have a swimsuit on under this, so.
I assume Hillary's tooth came out.
No.
not yet.
But Ellery ran into the tree with a golf cart.
She ran into the tree. Did she do damage to the golf cart?
No.
Oh, that's good.
She ran into
I
Uncle...
figure she's okay.
she-
That's why I didn't ask. Or
she
I'd have heard
ran-
about it
Or
already.
Ellery's spending the night at Grandma's tonight, so she's not here.
Oh.
But Ellery hit Uncle Rob's pear tree.
Uh-oh. The pear tree.
And then I picked up
Hey,
sticks.
Rainey.
Shh. I picked up sticks in his front yard, and I got $5 out of it.
Nice. Well, that's nice. So you went over to Uncle Rob's? Oh, you were up at the lake?
Yep.
Nice.
It was weird being in Grandma's house.
I'll
Go out on
bet.
the lake today? Go swimming?
Did you go on the lake today?
Oh, no.
They already sell the pontoon.
They sold it. Or
Yeah.
I don't know. Just, I think Uncle Herb.
Next year, we'll all be driving golf carts, says June Shasta.
I'm
Ain't that the truth?
The only electric car we'll be able to afford.
Yeah, really.
This jar like this big and like this tall. I'm gonna put money in it to save up for a dirt bike, and I'm not gonna touch none of the money until
You're
I have
not going to
enough.
touch none of the money? Who taught you how to talk?
And then, well, we'll see. It depends. I touch everything.
I want a Flintstone car.
I'm
That's what
gonna
I
try
want.
not to touch any of the money until I have enough to make a dirt bike, unless I need to bring out a few bucks to go somewhere with my friends. So far, I have $10 and 78 cents.
You're rich.
You're rich.
Yes, I am.
$10 and 78 cents when I was her age, 10. I looked
I
it up
could buy
once.
you
It's
something.
equivalent of $63 worth of purchasing power today from when I was a kid. So
I had an uncle,
that?
Urban, who was an uncle to me the way I'm an uncle to you. And he was the president of a bank. And every Christmas, we got a brand new $20 bill and a gift envelope. And
Yep.
I thought I was king of the hill when I got that $20 bill.
yeah, ain't that something? So Michelle Cannon-Free says, literally, they hide everything in plain sight as they erroneously assume that provides them with our tacit consent.
Yep.
Isn't that the truth? Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. They're your modern Stone Age family. Born in, no.
On a bedrock.
From the town of Bedrock. They're a place right out of history.
Are you gonna
Let's
get
go
copyright?
with the family down the street through the courtesy of Fred's 2 feet. When you're with the Flintstones, have a yabba dabba doo
Yeah,
time.
copyright
A
that.
dabba doo time. What? Copyright?
Copyright
Copyright what?
your song.
It's not my song.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, watch. I'll get a copyright hit from YouTube now.
Yeah, better be careful.
Well,
Dad.
I have to be into singing my song, not
Dad.
listening to you.
Dad.
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 Yeah.
If I put my tongue on your face, would you pay me $10 to take it off?
No. Wouldn't let you put your tongue on my face. That'd be at your own risk. You don't know where my face has been.
Ew.
You stop.
No. That's how
Yeah.
I get paid.
If you go ahead and put your tongue on my face while you're sleeping tonight. I will drool into your ear. I'll come into your room
You can't.
and I'll
A
go.
whole new meaning to a wet willy.
Yeah, it's a wet willy.
I'll go deaf. Haha.
Yeah, you'll go deaf. Stop now.
I
That's
guess
enough. I already said no.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did. No. There, I said it again. I don't want your tongue, your nasty, nappy little rough tongue that you lick your paws with and smooth out your fur. Yeah, copyright. I see what they were saying now. Yeah. Wow.
My
Yeah.
fourth thumb. Yesterday or the other day, I stuck a razor blade all the way down to the nail.
Ow.
And then today I grabbed a hold of the hot ember on my cigar with the same damn thumb.
Ow.
Now I have a burn on top.
Now you're cauterized.
Yeah. I didn't even take time to crazy glue it. I just put a rubber glove on and let it bleed while I was working because I was too busy at the time to take time to properly
I
bandage.
did that once a long time ago. The last time I really did that, I was cutting on a mat. I was cutting illustration board with an X-Acto blade, and I was holding down the metal strip, and I ran it down this way, and it ran up onto the metal strip. And,
yep. Don't even
sliced my thumb.
Gives me cringes just
in
to think
half
about
almost. I just taped it up. We put a little super glue, taped it up, and I don't even know which. It had to be this thumb on the left hand because, or it might have been the right hand. I might have hit it this way, and hit the. I think it was this finger.
What are you guys doing for the 4th?
Pretty much sticking around here.
You're not going to boycott it?
Boycott the 4th?
Did you hear that today on Fox? There are people out there saying because of the Supreme Court decision, we should boycott the 4th. You go right ahead, I said.
Go right ahead. You're an idiot.
Yep.
So
I don't want you at our celebration.
Yeah. Sorry, we will celebrate the founding of our country. Actually, it's the.
We're going to celebrate without you, and we aren't even going to miss you.
Yep. Were you gone? Oh, you were gone for the 4th of July?
I didn't notice.
Yeah. So, did you miss me on the 4th?
Okay, you guys have a holiday. It's called May Day.
There it is, May Day. The people who do that are the people that have no idea that they do not understand civics. They do not understand the Constitution because they've never taken time to either listen in school or to study it themselves briefly.
Sadly, she's a school board representative.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
You can read the Declaration of Independence in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You can read the whole Constitution. It'd take you a little bit longer with the Bill of Rights, but in the amendments. But you can read through all that stuff.
They can read
easily.
it, but apparently don't understand it.
They don't understand it. Independence Day is canceled due to a lack of independence, says Professor Bauer. Yeah, that's their skewed thinking, isn't it?
Professor Bauer, go out and friend me on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, go do that, Professor Bauer. Matthew Sainsbury, you mean the decision on abortion? Boy, they really carrying this far. Yeah, they are. You even got members of Congress that are coming out and decrying the Supreme Court for not doing their job. I'm sorry, the Supreme Court just did its job. The Supreme Court is there for a judicial check and balance. And somebody, Ocasio-Cortez, said something yesterday or the day before about how the Supreme Court should be checked and balanced by the executive branch and the legislative branch. Well, frankly, the judicial branch, the Supreme Court of the United States, is supposed to check and balance the legislation and the president, not the other way around. Oh, we lost Dave. I thought he had gotten kind of quiet. So there you go. The declaration was not signed, not on July 4th, but August 2nd. Yep. I think it was initially conceived on the 4th of July. That's when it was announced. And then it was signed. It took all those guys, had to gather to go sign that document. So Iowa X's April birthday is made on the 4th of July. There it is.
I did a quick costume change.
Well, I hope all the people who enjoy living under the Constitution of the United States, enjoy the freedoms they have to protest what the Supreme Court said. I hope they have a fun 4th of July, not celebrating it in protest. See you another time. What a bunch of rubes. It's like the friend of mine who I said, well, we started talking Constitution. She was like, I don't think the Constitution is valid. I want to see the Constitution done away with. I'm like, are you serious? Do you realize that your ability to say that to me in public online is protected by that Constitution. So, oh, here's Uncle Dave back again. Uncle Dave, he's back.
Yeah, apparently the government understood that I was talking negatively about them.
Yeah, really. So, yeah, Matthew Sainsbury, that's an interesting story. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams mysteriously died on the same day, 50 years after the Declaration on July 4th, 1826. Yes, Rowan.
Can you teach me how to use your tattoo gun, and can I give you a tattoo?
Not right now. I got to learn how to use it first.
I can learn first, and then give you a tattoo of a chicken wing on your butt cheek, and then you'll be good to go.
I'm not exposing my butt cheek to you. I can tell you that.
My nails fell off. See?
I got this hot tattoo artist. I'm going to go see her. Let her tattoo my butt.
What? You cheating on Mom?
It's not cheating. I just have a female tattoo artist.
These nails fell off, and it's
Can I have your son-in-law do it?
His shop. Yeah, I would like to have them do one. I want to do a shoulder and sleeve. And
really?
We thought of maybe doing something over my chest to cover the hideous scarring and blotchy marks that are still left over from my heart surgery. But so thought of maybe doing that. Maybe skip that all together. Just do the shoulder and the. I'd like to do a shoulder thing.
Tuesday night I was absent. I went up to Buffalo, Minnesota to hear Scott Walter do a lecture on the Templars. Very interesting.
That was what? I'm sorry, I was reading somebody's post. Say that again for me.
On Tuesday, I went up to Buffalo to hear Scott Walter do a lecture on the
nice.
Templars.
Nice.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I want to get.
They're just uncovering more and more stuff every day.
They are. Sarah Yusuf said graffiti on the temple. That's what tattoos are. Graffiti on the temple.
Dad?
Yes, my daughter.
When you learn how to use your tattoo gun, you got to give me a tattoo.
I'll give you a tattoo after you're 18. And you can make that choice on your own. And I can do it, or somebody else can do it.
No, you're going to do it when you learn how to.
Oh, I see. You know what my kids do a lot around here? Randy, do you recognize this too? My kids around here, they don't ask permission to do things. They tell us this is what we're doing. And I've already called grandma and made a plan. Or I've already done this thing. I've already looked this up. I already looked up your bank account to make sure you had enough money to buy me coffee. Yeah, Ellery wanted to go to the lake today to visit grandma up there. And she was worried that Rainey didn't want to do that. Rainey had other things going on today. So what does Ellery, the 7-year-old, do?
Call grandma and say, come pick me up?
Calls grandma and tells her we're all coming up today. Be ready, grandma, because we're all coming up.
No, or you just do this. Pop out your screen in your bedroom. Have something up against your window so they never know. And then you sneak out your bedroom window. Say you're going to pee. And then you say you got to poop. And then you just sneak out your bedroom window from 1 a.m. It's like 2 a.m. And then when you got back, just get back in your pajamas and say, I had to poop.
Okay, put that down in writing for me so I've got a copy of that documented.
Okay.
So, premeditated. Yeah. Ain't that the truth, June Shasta? Alpha kid, she said.
Yeah. But you know what, Rowan, when we were kids, when your dad and I were kids, we didn't tell mom and dad, we just did it.
We just did it.
Same.
You know what? When we were kids, they didn't worry about it because there was nothing to snatch us when we were kids.
That's it.
There's nothing to snatch me either. I have a pocket knife. Get in this pocket. And then
it's very different when you need to use it. It's very different.
Stab him in the heart, or you stab him in the eyeball.
Have no bravado about
or if
that.
It's a boy, you kick him in the nuts so hard.
All right. That's enough.
He left the house at 8 a.m. and didn't come home until it was dark.
That's what we did when we were kids. Mom didn't worry. So there's not much to worry about. So,
look, I drew this picture.
Hey, Mom, We're taking our bikes and we're going down to the big old dead tree in the fields. We'll be there all day. Bye. And
I drew this
that was
wrong.
pretty much it.
I drew it.
Yeah, I see that. I'm not trying to shut you down. I just talk about real things.
Okay, there's this real thing. Last night, I woke up, or I guess this morning, I woke up at 4:30 and I couldn't sleep because I hate thunderstorms, and there was a thunderstorm. So I went upstairs, turned on all the lights, turned on the TV, turned on my phone. I was watching TikTok on my phone while the Haunted Hathaways was playing on the TV. And then I heard something down on like our little landing by where the door is. There was stuff moving and nobody else was awake, so I just assumed it was the cat. But when I looked, the cat was on the top of the stairs and the dog sleeps with Mom. So there was no cat or dog. So I went into Dad and I woke Dad up, and then he asked me what time it was because he owed me Starbucks and he brought me to Starbucks. And I said it was only like 4:30, or maybe it was like 4:56. I think when I got.
I think it was 4:54.
It was 4:56.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
And it was too early to go because it only opens up at 5. So he made me sleep, but we were gonna go at 7. But he made me sleep until 8. I woke up at 8. 20.
Yes, they do, Iowa X. So.
That's mean.
No, it's truthful.
I'm not 30 years old.
No, you're not. You still got 20 years to go till 30.
You still got 10.
So, yeah, I still got 10.
But you got 0.
Yeah.
You're too old.
And so then we went and we got on our bikes and we're riding around on our bikes. And if we didn't have cell phones, I don't know what we would do while we were out on our bikes riding around, because then we just have to talk to each other and have to ride everywhere.
No.
We'd have to go everywhere. We can ride down to the fields or to the park. And then when we got to the park, you wouldn't believe the things we saw. We saw a guy walking his dog, and I woke my dad up at 6 a.m. so we could go have coffee together. And I didn't want to wake up Mom, though. So because Dad took me, we went and had coffee at Starbucks today.
No, this is what
And
me
I
my
had this
friend did.
great
So our
coffee
phones are
that I
out of
saw. And
battery,
oh my
so we
God, I
just
saw
bike
this
down
thing
the
on
river.
TikTok. There's this dress that I really want. You haven't seen it. It's not really a dress. It kind of looks like a dress, but it's really not a dress. It's really shorts and a tank top and a thing.
Oh.
And you probably won't let me wear it. But even like the thing I'm wearing right now, I know I'm not supposed to be really wearing this out in public, but I'm wearing it anyway. And because you didn't see me get dressed, so therefore you didn't know about it. And so when you don't know about it,
I can wear this sweatshirt and this shirt. I'm not allowed to wear these shorts, though.
No, you're not allowed to wear those shorts.
Unless I'm in the house.
Even in the house.
No, so me and my friend.
They may magically disappear.
No, because I hide these when I take
That's
them off.
true,
because
Sarah.
You guys say, because you guys say you're gonna rip them up as soon as I take them off, so I have to hide them from you. Okay, so one time
Here you go, Elderberry.
So one time, me and Cora didn't have our phones because my phone was out of battery, so I just didn't bring it because there's no point of it. And we biked down the river's edge, and then we picked up crayfish and started throwing them at each other.
You were throwing crayfish at each other?
She tried to. I didn't. I don't like
Did
fish.
you have any concern for the life of the crayfish?
No.
I didn't think so.
It was already dead.
So, yeah, Elderberry.
And then we ate pickles and drank our Arizonas. And
All
so
day
the crayfish
long.
we picked up was already dead. And then we filled our things full of water. Like our Arizonas, we drank them all. So I filled them full of water. And we let the fish climb into them. And when the fish climbed into them, we let all the water out. And then I dared Cora to eat one, and she ate it. And it was like not even.
Was it good?
I don't know. She puked. Or she didn't puke, but she like.
She gagged.
She spit it out.
Very true, June Shasta.
You should have seen me today at the lake. It was cold.
So you let free food go away? What now? Says Field Guy.
That didn't make any sense. So we ate our pickles.
That didn't make
and then
any
Cora
sense.
drank the pickle juice. And I drank my Arizona. And then Cora ate a
Crawdads.
Cora ate a fish that was not even cooked. Or she tried to.
Was it a fish she found like on the side of the river?
No. It floated into our water bottles. Were you not listening?
Oh, I
God,
see.
old people these days.
Like minnows.
And then we found a dead beaver.
A dead beaver?
Yeah.
Did you get his tail?
No.
Tails are worth money.
So are old people.
Just take out your little jackknife. Cut it off. Old people are worth money?
Yeah.
Which ones?
Sell pictures of their toes. They're expensive.
Oh, yeah. I could sell pictures of my toes. You could go to Craigslist and sell pictures of my toes.
I could sell pictures of my fingers and make $1 million a day.
Oh, I see.
My fingers are cute.
Nutria tails are $5 each here, says Field Guy. What's a nutria? Is that a fish of some kind?
It's your mom.
Field Guy? It's your mom. Lifeless beaver, that's grounds for divorce.
Now that we're not in school, I can
thanks,
say your
Dave.
mom without losing one recess and getting 5 Spartan tickets taken away.
Oh, I see.
They yelled at us for saying your mom because it was
Your mom?
inappropriate, mean, and we just shouldn't be saying.
Oh, boy.
They also yelled at me for my shirt, which was rude.
Well, I yelled at you for your shirt.
No, the other shirt.
No,
the other shirt you made
so the word
for
no
me,
becomes 2 syllables.
that you made for me and Braxton. And they made me wear a sweatshirt all day long, and it was like 89 degrees outside.
That's what you get when you don't listen to mom and dad.
You said
About
I could
how to
wear
dress.
it.
Which one?
My Let's Go Brandon shirt.
Oh, the Let's Go Brandon shirt. That one. Yeah. They made her cover it up with a sweatshirt at school. And it was very
Braxton was
tastefully done.
sweating. You should have seen Braxton's face. It was red and they didn't have air conditioning on either. And Braxton almost passed out. They were rude.
Here. I'll show you guys something. This is the Let's Go Brandon
I
shirt.
could just go grab the shirt.
I was going to show them the picture, but yeah, you can do that.
Sure. Let's grab it.
Let's see. Let's go Brandon. I got to find the picture of Rowan. Here it is. Okay.
Okay, got it.
All right,
Watching my
guys.
TikToks, Mom?
I'm going to share my screen with you all. And this is, there's Rowan in the Let's Go Brandon shirt I made for her. And I didn't do the artwork, so I just laid it out. And so I don't want to say I painted this picture for her shirt. I didn't. But then Rainey made it on her shirt press over there on the other side of the room.
Yeah.
And but she wore that to school, and the teachers made her cover it up.
And I'm never allowed to wear it again because Miss Philippi called Mom. So rude. And we
got a call from the principal.
Yeah.
Who knows us? She likes us, you know.
She doesn't like me.
Well, you're a troublemaker.
That's a lie.
So
No, so we made 2 of these.
Yeah.
2 of these because I gave one to my best friend Braxton, which you obviously don't know her because old people don't know no one. So
what's that got to do with age? Wait till I get really old. You have to change my diapers.
okay, excuse me, Mister, who I said I wanted a mocha cookie crumble at Starbucks, which was on the right side of the strawberry drink, and you ordered a caramel. You tried to order a caramel frappuccino.
Oh, I forgot which one you said. I didn't have my glasses on, and I wasn't awake yet. I hadn't had any coffee yet.
Oh.
Yeah. What's with the fingernails?
Yeah. Mom just said excuses. See, the nails are.
Mom
fine.
said that you're standing up for her?
Yeah.
What's with the fingernails?
The fingernails are fine. You're the only one with a problem with it.
I got a problem with that. Here. 10-year-olds don't need fingernails that look like that.
You be quiet,
That's
Mom.
Hoochie Mama nails, Mom just said from the other room. So there you go.
As long as I look 12.
So
we were driving. I was driving the go-kart like as fast as it could go. Like you couldn't push the gas anymore. And when we got back to Uncle Rob's house, we heard cop sirens, and I thought they were coming for me.
oh yeah, they put on their sirens and they'll chase you from that far away. When you're riding a golf cart down the quiet lake road.
Well, there were a bunch of people walking.
The quiet residential lake road. It's more like a walkway in a park. So
I'm a dad now.
go to the Starbucks and order coffee. Yeah, that's what we did this morning. So
I could be a hot teacher.
you're 10. You don't need to be talking about what's hot and what isn't hot. And I don't think those nails are appropriate. I told you.
I'm out of nails now. These are my last nails. Okay, you have to stop complaining about everything I do.
I don't complain about everything. I complain when you, as a 10-year-old, want to act like you're 20.
Which to you is everything.
No, it's a few things. Let's see. Did guests confirm for tomorrow? We got no confirmation for guests for tomorrow, Sarah. So it's going to be next week, into next week, I'm sure, before that happens. So, but not nice at the school said no on the shirt. Let's go brownish. Yeah, she said because it what's the word I'm looking for? Not symbolizes. It alludes to cuss words that are inappropriate.
No, so one teacher, me and Braxton were we didn't have our sweatshirts on because it was hot outside, and we were just running around with our shirts. And a teacher goes up to just Caden, which she obviously knew. He knew what it meant because he has like stickers, like he sold stickers at school of it. Like I got 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked him because she knew what it was, just because she wanted to get me and Braxton in trouble because she's a mean teacher who hates everyone. And no, and
so and that's why I became a teacher.
And Caden goes, because it means, and so she's like, tell me what it means. And he goes, well, it means F Biden. And she asked a few other kids, and they knew what it meant. Not because we told them, not because I wasn't even friends with those kids. Like, those were the annoying kids.
This is without sugar and caffeine.
Like, she even has Barrett. I don't even talk to Barrett. And she asked him, and they all knew what it was. And she put the fault on me and Braxton for them knowing what it was.
Oh, like you told them?
Yes.
Mm.
I'm telling you, all the teachers hate me.
Well, I think that there are a lot of teachers in the educational system that
hate me.
Support Biden, or the left at least.
Miss Greener laughed when she saw her.
There, that's the shirt we should make for you. What Field Guy just said, Buck Biden. So there you go. All right. Well, folks, you know what we're going to do? We're going to bring this little exuberance of youth captain's cabin to an end for the night. I hope that you're enjoying this or have enjoyed it up to this point. I think we should get Rowan her own radio show, and she could regale you for an hour a night.
Can we?
All right.
I'll take your Wednesdays.
Yeah, you take my Wednesdays. There you go. There it is. All right, guys. So we're going to say it. This is it. Live long and prosper.